K-1 versus Rise. Welcome to the new era of kickboxing. All of the major organizations are now working together. WLF, Rise, K-1, and Glory are all collaborating on the future of kickboxing. Welcome to Kick Weekly with Tim Wheaton, the weekly kickboxing podcast covering all the latest fights and news in the world of kickboxing. Folks, I hope you are doing well and I appreciate your time. So this past week we had a Rise event and we had a K1 event. Both featured many fights from K1 versus Rise and some title fights, and both events were pretty good. I'll run down the major fights that I enjoyed and any fights that you really need to check out and the major movers and stuff like that. But let's start with the K1 just because it was a couple hours ago. It was a 10-hour broadcast. I caught the end of it and caught up on the major events. But let's take a look. But let's start with Liu Ce versus Sina Karimian. So Liu Ce was the open weight K1 World Grand Prix champion. He had leg kicked and TKO'd everybody to the final by first round knockout. He then went to WLF and captured another title while there by first round knockout. And then he was going to fight Sina Karimian, who is the reigning cruiserweight champion. Now, Sina's kind of an interesting guy if you don't know anything about him. He is very controversial for like cheating in fights, like hits to the back of the head, crotch shots. He punched the ref in a fight. And that's just one fight. And so his whole career has kind of been mired in weird stuff. And then in this fight, he tried pushing Liu Ce at the weigh-ins. And I don't know, Liu Ce just barely cared. But he also walked out in a rice farmer's hat wearing Chinese flag shorts to fight Liu Ce, who is from China. But I don't think it's an attack in the way that people think it's an attack, in that the rice farmer's hat is not a symbol of China. It's just a symbol of anyone who maybe farms rice. Like billions of people in Southeast Asia probably wear that hat. So Sina is walking out trying to have an attack against his opponent, and his opponent is probably just confused why he's wearing a rice farmer hat when he's trying to make fun of him from being from China. But that Liu Ce probably just doesn't care, or, but yeah, wearing Chinese flag shorts was just kind of an odd choice. I mean, I know that Floyd Mayweather did those kinds of things in the past, but the thing is that if you lose, you really look goofy because you made that choice. And then the fight was not particularly close. Liu Ce came out and every punch clearly had an effect against Sina Karimian. He knocked him down a couple times in the first round and he was looking wobbly. Sina Karimian really wasn't getting any offense back, but everything that Liu Ce landed was impactful. Second round, Liu Ce scored another knockdown. And then towards the end of the round, he scored another knockdown, but then some goofy stuff started happening and the refs are just a complete joke. Like, this was some dumb stuff because they had a replay ringside. Now, this will be a theme of the show because this happened in another fight as well, but they had a replay ringside to review it and the ref still didn't change his mind. So what happened is Liu Ce hit him square in the face. Sina Karimian threw a spinning back fist, so he was turned away from his opponent. So Liu Ce hit him square in the face and then the ref called a timeout. Probably to check if it was behind the head. We saw the replay and it clearly wasn't behind the head. And then they said Liu Ce did not stop fighting when the referee called a timeout. And they showed the replay again and Liu Ce hit him in the head legally. And then the referee yelled for a timeout before the punch. It's like the punch was already launched before the ref said anything. So they gave Liu Ce a yellow card. Like, we saw the replay. This is idiotic. Anyway, it didn't make any difference for the end of the fight anyway, because we went to the third round. Again, extremely dominant performance by Liu Ce. And then with a right hook, an overhand right, Liu Ce put Sina Karimian out cold. And it was a brutal knockout. Go on Twitter, go on Reddit, go on Instagram and find the replay. It sounded like a football being punted when it landed. Sina Karimian's head, his chin had turned and touched his shoulder because it was such a brutal knockout. And he was out cold. There was no protest. He was not conscious enough to protest. That was by far the best highlight of the last week of kickboxing fights. Absolutely awesome stuff. And Liu Ce just continues his run of dominance. This young man has been dominating the competition. Sina Karimian was the highest ranked fighter, the most well-respected fighter, a world champion that he had faced in his career, and he ran through him like it was nothing. So I'd love to see some more challenges for Liu Ce. Hopefully have him fight a couple more times this year because that would be absolutely awesome to see. Maybe in other organizations. Maybe he goes in the Glory Light Heavyweight Grand Prix. I don't know. Who knows? some fun stuff there, but there are all great and fun options for Liu Ce out there. All right, let's keep going down the card. So this was the first round of the K1 World Max final elimination for the 70 kilogram tournament, which would be about 155 pounds. So Daryl Verdonk was able to get a first round TKO knockout against Hiromi Wajima. Really impressive victory, really impressive win. Did it with a punch just at the end of the round. But yeah, very impressive performance by the former Infusion champion. Ouyang Feng, the Chinese-born champion, had defeated Pascal Schroth in a very dominant performance. It was a unanimous decision victory for Ouyang Feng, but no surprise, Ouyang Feng is the K1 and WLF champion right now. Victor Akimov had defeated Rei Nakajima by spinning back fist. I think Rei Nakajima was the professional boxer who had never fought in kickboxing before. I don't really know. It's a weird fight that they put in the tournament anyway. I wouldn't overthink it. Don't go out of your way for it. Kasper Mushinski, in one of the major upsets, got a unanimous decision victory over Stoyan Koprivensky. And the reason that's such a big deal is because Stoyan Koprivensky had competed for titles in both Rise and Glory and lost very close decision victories. In fact, in this tournament, this K1 155-pound Grand Prix, Stoyan was one of the favorites to reach the final, if not win the entire thing. It was very likely on the betting lines to be Ouyang Feng versus Stoyan Koprivensky. He was by far the most experienced fighter. And then Kasper Mushinski from Poland comes in with very little known about his background and ends up getting a very close decision victory. Good for him. This was a huge upset on the card, and what an underdog performance. You also had Zora Okapian defeated Taras Hyunchuk. Romano Bokboer defeated Thananchai. That was another kind of surprise. It went to an extension round and was still a split decision. But Thananchai on paper should really have won this fight. You know, he's like the RWS champion. He's kind of a big deal on pound for pound Muay Thai. He's the stadium champion and all that stuff. Maybe he was just struggling to adjust to the kickboxing rules, and that's completely fair. That's completely valid. But hopefully we see some more from Thananchai in the future, but really should have won this fight. And Denge Silva had defeated Riku, so that means your finalists in the next round of the Grand Prix are going to be Denge Silva, Romano Bokboer, Zora Okapian, Kasper Mushinski, Victor Akimov, Ouyang Feng, and Daryl Verdonk. Some other fights on the card as well. SAHO had defeated Antonia Prifti from Greece. So Antonia was the person who had defeated Kana Silverwolf in a major upset and looked extremely dominant doing it. SAHO has a very impressive record, came out on a hot win streak, but was still an underdog coming into this fight. And then she dominated Antonia. This, again, was not a close fight, and SAHO did not have a size advantage or anything like that. But yeah, she looked like Antonia was in a different class. So naturally, the next fight will be SAHO versus Kana Silverwolf, most likely is what I'm expecting. But yeah, SAHO, this division got a lot more interesting by uncrowning the champion, and then uncrowning that champion. We now have a lot more fighters at the top who are extremely interesting. And so I'm looking forward to seeing more. But yeah, it was a very, very dominant win. SAHO's power clearly made a big difference. So over the last few years, SAHO is largely undefeated except for one fight where she lost to Australia's Jacinta Austin. Jacinta Austin will be fighting in Octagon 55 later this week. She's a Muay Thai and kickboxing fighter who switched over to MMA, but her one win in K1 is against SAHO. And I interviewed Jacinta Austin earlier this week and trying to tell her of like, hey, you know, SAHO, the one person you beat in K1 is now fighting for a title when I wrote the question. Now has won a title. Would you ever consider coming back to kickboxing? So as soon as Jacinta Austin gets back to me, I'll put the interview out publicly, and then, we can have a further discussion. Maybe she wants to fight SAHO once again. I don't know. We will see. Taito Ganji was able to get a victory over Kaisuke Monguchi. This was, again, went to an extension round split decision. A lot of these fights I have not yet seen because it just broadcast a few hours ago. The replay is not up live at this point, but we're just going through some results, and then I can figure it out later. The Rise champion Koyoki Miyazaki had defeated the former K1 current atomweight champion Miyu Sugawara. This was, again, extension round unanimous decision. Very close fight from the look of it. And that's pretty much all I really caught. I'm sure the other fights were quite good. Let me get back to you on that. From the looks of things, I would bet you that the Masashi Kimura versus Luca Sacchetti fight was quite good. I bet the Hirotaka Asahisa versus Remy Para fight was quite good. And I bet the Misan Usami knockout in the first round was quite good as well. That's what I'm thinking, but I haven't seen it. I will go watch those and get back to you folks. So that's it for the K1 World Max 2024. Now let's get to the Rise El Dorado fight from earlier this week. I think this was on Saturday, but we had some K1 vs. Rise fights as well as a few title fights on the card. The K1 champion Akihiro Kaneko was able to defeat the former Rise champion Masahiko Suzuki. This was a great fight as expected. Masahiko Suzuki is always down for a war, and you have Akihiro Kaneko, who's just an extremely entertaining fighter, and it was very, very exciting. But Akihiro Kaneko dominated this fight and managed to win by unanimous decision. But there was a lot of moments where he was almost getting knockdowns or getting knockdowns. His right hand was like a laser-guided missile. He just couldn't lose. Whether Masahiko Suzuki was coming in or just leaving exchanges, that right hand was finding a home over and over and over again. So congratulations to Akihiro Kaneko. This was a great victory. And the reason Masahiko Suzuki is such a fan favorite is because his answer to right hands or getting hit all the time or almost getting knocked down is to brawl back. So if you hit him hard enough once or twice, he's going to throw back 5 punches. His own safety is less important than putting on a good show. Kazuki Osaki got a victory as very much expected. Let's do the main event and then kind of work down. So Shiro versus Toki Tamaru. Toki Tamaru was going for his 3rd title against Shiro, who's an extremely experienced Muay Thai fighter and holds a title in Rise. We only got through 1 round, but not much to say on the 1 round as well. It was a feeling out period, but Toki Tamaru and Shiro collide heads. At the end of the 1st round, the doctor takes a look and says, look, this guy's broken his nose or whatever, so he can't continue. So they just called it a no contest, which kind of sucks. Miguel Trindade defeats Chad Collins by 1st round knockout, a combination of punches and kicks. Now, this makes the rankings just a total and complete mess because he dominated Chad Collins. And the reason that's a big deal is because Chad Collins had just uncrowned Petch. Petch was the longtime champion in Glory and the champion in Rise, and then Chad Collins beat him. And that was a very, very close fight. But now Miguel Trindade comes out here and absolutely blasts Chad Collins like it's nothing. And so Miguel Trindade, he had 1 victory in 1 championship. And then he went to Glory and got a loss to Berjan Perposhi. And then Berjan Perposhi got losses to Dennis Wojcik and John Yankafa and Ahmed Sheikh Musa. So who would you rank as number 1? Petch now is probably number 1 because, other than Chad Collins, he's beaten most of these people already. But that division now has a lot more people in it, and it's a lot more interesting and it's a lot more exciting. But yeah, definitely watch that fight. It's just 1 minute of one guy beating up another guy. So it's quite a fun little fight that they had there. Chad Collins really couldn't get anything going and got knocked out in about 90 seconds. Now, Yuki Yoza versus Nakamura. This was one on paper that I know everybody was really excited for because you have one of the top pound for pound fighters facing off against a very challenging, different style opponent who hits very hard, and it's a K1 champion versus a Rise champion. So Yuki Yoza, and they fought about 3 rounds almost total. We almost made it to the end of the fight before weird stuff happened, but it seemed like that neither fighter, for whatever reason, due to the stances, it being an open matchup, whatever it might be, could not go to their A game. And instead, both of these fighters had to rely on their B game because their A game was nullified by their opponent. So they had to rely on their B game. And because of it, we got a very different fight than what we typically see out of these two. It was much more tactical, much more leg kick heavy, a little bit more happening in the clinch. So it was genuinely a really interesting fight for as long as it lasted. And even the judges' scorecards reflected this as well. The 1st round was scored a draw by all 3 judges ringside. The 2nd round was scored a draw by 2 judges ringside. So it was a much closer fight than people were giving it credit for, a far more interesting fight than people were giving it credit for. These two were very evenly matched and couldn't get any advantages out of the other person or anything like that. But in the end, Yuki Yoza threw a spinning back kick to his opponent's leg, which landed on his crotch. So Nakamura went down. I'm hitting the crotch. Ouch, that hurts like heck. And then the ref comes over and starts counting a 10 count. And I think he actually stood up by the end of the count as well. But then the ref waved it off, saying that he couldn't rise at the end of the 10 count. But it was an illegal move. He got hit in the groin. So the referee and officials go ringside to review. Did he get hit in the groin, as was very clear? Or did he get hit in the leg, and therefore this is a TKO? After watching the kick a few times, again, we have replays ringside for a reason. They stick to the judge's decision was that it was a leg kick TKO that he could not rise from. But this is just like, we see this in all sports. at all levels, really. It's whatever the referee calls in that moment, people stick to it, and they don't have to. But that is the standard, and you see that even at the highest levels of boxing to this day, is that whatever the judges or referee says, the athletic commission isn't going to change it later, even though it's clearly incorrect. But the athletic commissions don't overturn these things, but they will always stick to whatever the referee said in that moment. So they stand by the call. They stand by whatever the call was made. And I think a lot of their thoughts on this was like an old Jordan Breen rant, but yes, it is traditional, because when these sports it is very traditional. Like, let's use baseball as the comparison back in the day of like, this sport was made, over 100 years ago. And at the time they didn't have the benefit of like electronic measurement to see if a ball was out. They didn't have the benefit of instant replay to see if the ball was out. Same with in tennis. We can measure now on a computer to see whether the ball was in fact out or not. We don't have to rely on some person just looking and guessing. But we do, because traditionally that's what we've always done. But you got to think, when they invented the sport, they invented the rules a certain way for those rules to be enforced. The rules aren't dependent on, are the rules if the ball is out or not, or is the rule whether the umpire or referee sees the ball out or not? Clearly, look, when they invented the sport, if they had the benefit of instant replay or electronic measurement of the ball, they would have used it. And we have those benefits today, but because traditionally those were not used, we don't use it. But that's not the way the sport is intended to play. Just umpires making random calls and then you stick to it. Referees making random calls and then you stick to it for whatever. We have the benefit of instant replay. We have the benefit of electronic measurement, on these things. We can see directly whether or not that was a kick to the leg or groin. You don't have to stick to what the ref said to make the ref feel better, or whatever. Just like, you don't have to stick to the referee. If he makes a wrong call based on what you see in the replay, make a change. And we see this, the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup has done a better job as to looking at replays and then overturning what the referee says. In fact, the referee is not the most important person. It's the group of people who are watching the replay upstairs. But other sports like American football, I don't know. But baseball, kickboxing, MMA, boxing have not adopted this idea. They're still stuck with whatever the referee says. That's essentially it. Which is just dumb. Like, it makes the sport look so stupid. I just don't have anything else to say on this. So much of sports is not even talking about the cool things that happened. It's often talking about the stupid plays that referees went through. Like, I can't believe the umpire called this. What was the ref watching? Was the ref even looking? Blah, blah, blah. Man, we can make it all electronics. The referee's job can probably be replaced by instant replay across all sports, and it would be better. But if you have the ability to look at instant replays, you need to use that to your benefit, not to confirm what you already said. If you're wrong, you need to say that. And look, you can listen to all my podcasts. I'm wrong frequently, and I always admit it. I can't believe I used the World Cup as an example of someone who did something well. But they do replays, like to see if the ball was out, whether that was a offside, whether to see it was a handball or whatever it might be. They use it quite a bit and actually stick to it, and they don't always stick to the referee's call. I think rugby, they also use instant replay, but it's much more up to the referee's discretion, not a team of people upstairs. I like the team of people upstairs who are not being influenced by the audience, blah, 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 that sort of stuff. I think that's the better model if you really want to enforce the rules in sports. But clearly, athletic commissions don't care about enforcing the rules in sports. They just stick to whatever the referee decides in that moment. And look, refereeing is a really tough job. I agree. If I had to make split-second decisions based on people punching and kicking each other, I would screw up all the time, because that's a really challenging, stressful, and difficult job to do, especially if 20,000 people are yelling at you at the same time. I agree, that is a tough job, and that's why you need instant replay more than ever. In those split-second decisions, you are making a difference to someone's income. You are going to decide on their future based on a win or a loss. It is more valuable than ever to look at instant replay and make the right decision in the sport. Anyway, that was about it for Rise El Dorado. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll get to the news and announcements that's going on. We have lots of news and announcements going on. Thank you for listening to the Calf Kick Sports Network. Make sure to check out more interviews, highlights, and podcasts on the interview channels. Additionally, make sure to check out Calf Kick Sports on Instagram. Links for all of these will be down below. Now, back to the show. Let's talk a little bit about RWS Muay Thai. Their last event had a really cool finish with Kanuban defending his stadium flyweight title against Lak Boon, but he got a first round leg kick TKO victory. Sorry, first round leg kick KO victory. And I'll actually try to put the video up next to my head there. But yeah, he managed to defend his title just with a clean leg kick. And you got to think at this level where people have been taking leg kicks for their entire life, how hard do you have to kick someone in the leg to put them down? And it's against a veteran. It's against a person who has had hundreds of fights all throughout their life practicing taking leg kicks, and you put them down and defend your title that way. Very cool stuff. Let's stick to talking about RWS. On April 14th, they will be returning to Japan for their second show. This will be at the Tipstar Dome in Chiba. Nice lineup so far, and I do like it. So Nadaka Yoshinari versus Kevin Martinez. You have Saya Ito against Faya Hong, and a few other fights there. But let me talk about why these are such a big deal. But Nadaka Yoshinari is fresh off of his Raja Dominant Stadium title victory against Prow Prow. That was at the first RWS Japan event. It was a very dominant win. And of course, as I've talked about him on this channel. I have a video about him. The 23-year-old Japanese athlete has put together a highly impressive win streak, mostly won by way of knockout. And you can see his replays in RWS alone. He has earned KO wins with elbows, low kicks, punches, head kicks. He's just dangerous and powerful with every limb. Even at just 23 years old, he's already got Muay Thai titles in Raja Dominant Stadium, WBC, WMC, Lumpini Stadium, and many, many others. And that's why he's considered a top pound-for-pound talent. And on April 14th, he will face the Spanish-born Kevin Martinez, who has held the WMC European and IFMA Muay Thai Championship. And then Saya Ito versus Faya Hong. Oh, I love this fight. This is a really good fight. This is the top Japanese female Muay Thai fighter against one of the top female Muay Thai fighters kind of around the world. But Saya Ito has picked up many professional titles in Muay Thai, such as the WBC, WMC, WPMF, and tons of others. She's a talented Muay Thai striker. She was only 12 years old when she made her debut. So Faya Hong, the reason people know her is because she was quite young when she won the K-1 Atomweight Grand Prix, I think in 2021 or 2021, I want to say. But yeah, she ran through the competition, won a one-night tournament, and looked really good doing it. I think at the time she was only 18 or 19 years old. So she's a former K-1 champion. She's also held Muay Thai titles in WPMF, PAT, other awards like that. So I would think Saya Ito versus Faya Hong is a very big deal for the future of women's Muay Thai pound-for-pound rankings. And then there's a few other fights confirmed, but let's get to the rest of the news here. The new Glory CEO will be Marshall Zelensnik. He is a former CEO of Glory and also worked on the UFC as one of their international expanders, kind of in the background to get distribution deals or rights deals or something like that. But he kind of worked in the background of the UFC for a lot of the international stuff. But prior to that, he was with Glory, and he was at the helm of Glory up to 2019, I believe, and then kind of left at the end. And the big show, Glory Collision 2, he was at the helm during that period. But now he's back, yeah. But yeah, Maurice Holt, the former Glory CEO, just left after a few months. There's some insider rumors. There's some other stuff that people think about, but essentially we don't entirely know why he left or why he was fired. But yeah, they brought back the old CEO, and hopefully they can get it together and get it working. Bahram Rajabzadeh is confirmed to be on Glory 91. Bahram Rajabzadeh, you know I'm a big fan of him. I talked about him so much during the lead up, during the post show. I talked about Bahram all the time. He's everyone's favorite fighter now. He's an aggressive and exciting fighter. He's awesome to see. He's always aiming for the knockout victory. His next fight has been confirmed for being hosted in Paris, Glory 91 on April 27th, and he will face Kevin Umar. Umar is a French-born fighter who mostly fights in MMA. He has a 9-4 record in MMA. In kickboxing, he has national titles and Sanda titles at the national level. And this will be his debut in Glory. Headlining Glory 91 will be Andy Semelier looking to defend his title against Chico Quasi. That is a really good fight. Great fight. That welterweight division is so good. The main event for Glory 92 was also announced. You have Donovan Vise versus Ulrich Bokemi. That looks pretty good. That's going to be Glory 92, May 18th, hosted in Rotterdam. Some more news, and this is a very last minute booking. I think this was just yesterday or the day before this was announced, and it's happening on the 23rd. So on March 23rd, just a few days away, Rizin has announced that Buakaw will face Minoru Kimura. So Kimura, he's a very talented knockout striker. He has a knockout win rate of like 80% or something like that. He captured a K-1 World Grand Prix in 2020. He beat all of his opponents by first round knockout during the Grand Prix. But he's on a bit of a skid. I mean, he won his last 2 bouts, but both were overturned due to testing positive for banned substances. And then he had another match booked recently, and he had requested a drug test publicly. And then the match was canceled because he tested positive in that drug test. But when he hits, he's a banger. He's an absolute banger. But Buakaw, 41 years old, absolute legend of the game. I mean, look, the guy fought in the golden era of K1 Max. He fought everyone from Giorgio Petrosian, John Wayne Parr, Nikki Holzken, Masato Kobayashi, just Andy Sauer, everyone you can think of. Buakaw faced him. In more recent years, Buakaw has been doing some extracurricular activities. He's been taking kickboxing fights in RWS. He's been taking bare knuckle Muay Thai fights. He's had some other exhibition matches in bare knuckle and stuff like this. He's fought in Rizin a couple of times here and there, but he's clearly on the retirement tour. And as long as he's making money and his body holds up, I'm more than happy to see it. But you got to think, if Minoru Kimura passes the drug test and actually shows up on the 23rd, you know, the result may be overturned after the fight. But given where these two gentlemen are at in their careers, Minoru Kimura has to win by knockout. He has to be the better and fresher fighter. You're fighting a very over-the-hill Buakaw, and you are very much in your prime. 2020 K1 Grand Prix champion against a 2004 K1 Grand Prix champion. It's a big difference there. But yes, I think I expect officially to be a no contest most likely, but Minoru Kimura will probably win by knockout. That's at Rizin Landmark 9, March 23rd. I think there's 4 other kickboxing fights on the card as well, and then a handful of MMA fights on it. So what about Manny Pacquiao versus Buakaw? This was scheduled for April in Bangkok, but there was different stuff. They made an announcement for the date, and then they made another announcement for a different date, but they had a venue. They had Buakaw and Manny Pacquiao staring down at each other, and it was supposed to be a boxing fight. According to multiple managers who had booked fighters at the event, and also Chad Collins, who was fighting at the event, they said that the promoter has thrown in the towel, essentially, and said that the event is no longer going forward. And that's really all we know about it, is that a manager and a fighter said it's no more. And the promoter hasn't said anything. Buakaw hasn't said anything. Manny Pacquiao hasn't said anything. I assume some people got paid and they couldn't book it. They couldn't guarantee money or something like that. But as far as we know, that fight is not happening. Both are officially signed to Rizin. It's just a matter of anyone really, nobody really cares. No one wants to see it. It's just 2 big names, but it's a boxer versus a kickboxer in boxing in an exhibition fight. Who cares? And I'm saying who cares very respectfully. I love both of those men in their respective sports, but I would like, if they're going to do these retirement tours, do exhibition bouts against people in their career. I mean, Buakaw versus some of the other people that he's been fighting make a lot of sense. Minoru Kimura is a very relevant and real fighter who likely is to not come out. Manny Pacquiao goes on a retirement tour, but he's not fighting the best of the best anymore. Anyway, we got to talk about circus fights so much in this job. I just don't care. If you're going to do circus fights, then do circus fights. You know what I mean? Don't have a boxer versus a kickboxer in boxing. Have a boxer versus a kickboxer in valet doo-doo. Let's get him in bare knuckle. No rules at all. Head stomps are allowed. Soccer kicks are allowed. Like, go circus if you really want to do this stuff. Let's get a sumo wrestler versus a very small kickboxer and see who wins under a no rules bout. You know, let's just get the pride rules back in here. Maybe gloves. I don't care. But if you're going to do circus stuff, do some circus stuff, you know? Continuing on the news, RWS has confirmed a major fight with pound-for-pound implications on the line. April 6th, live from Rajadamnern Stadium in Bangkok, Kumendoi will take on Kunsaklek. During this fight, Kumendoi will put his Rajadamnern Stadium bantamweight title on the line against the young Kunsaklek. So Kumendoi, you would probably know him best from his run in Rise Kickboxing. He was in the 2023 Grand Prix and faced people like Toki Tamaru in the final. He also beat Shiro and a few other people, but extremely talented and Muay Thai fighter. After losing the finals of the Rise Grand Prix, he went to RWS Muay Thai and was able to pick up a stadium title when he defeated Pancor. Prior to that, he had already held titles in things like Omnoy Stadium, WBC Muay Thai, True For You, and a bunch of other places as well. Now, Kunsaklek is a really interesting one because he is one of the highest ranked pound for pound fighters because he just has an incredible win streak, and he's only 18 years old. So at 18 years old, he has won 39 fights in a row without a single loss. That is just insane. 39 fights. You got to think he has an off week. He has an off day here and then it breaks up the win streak and he keeps going. But no, this guy just keeps going for some reason. And then his best years, 2022 and 2023, he picked up titles in like National Muay Thai, Omnoy Stadium. He picked up a few fights in one championship and stayed unbeaten there as well. So this will be the number one ranked fighter at 115 pounds versus the number one ranked fighter against 118 pounds. And pound for pound implications will absolutely be on the line in this fight. And it's most likely that the winner will then face Nadaka Yoshinari, who also holds the title kind of in that range. So that'd be a really good one, but I am going to do something a little bit more in depth on that one with RWS. So keep your eyes peeled because we're going to be doing a Kumandoi versus Kunsaklek technical breakdown, what the stakes are, talking about both men in the next couple of weeks here. So there'll be a nice video essay out on that one. Some more news for you folks, but Jamal Ben Sadiq undergoes surgery for his returning cancer. So the Moroccan-Belgian kickboxer had first undergone surgery for his cancer in 2012 due to his thyroid, and he was able to fully make a recovery and then in that time become a top contender in Glory Kickboxing, one of the main rivals to Rico Verhoeven. So the 33-year-old athlete went under the knife earlier this week, I think, or last week, and it was a 6-hour surgery. I was learning from Ron from Vexport, and they were fully able to remove the cancer, so now he's on the recovery trail, and his managers are very optimistic that he's able to make a full recovery, get back in the gym, and hopefully have a fight sometime in 2024. But he was diagnosed with the return of cancer in January of this year. So I think he knew when he was talking to Glory about the Grand Prix that he did actually have cancer in that time. Just a matter of would he fight or would he put off a fight for this surgery. One championship has signed Wei Rui, who picked up a K-1 title and has some really impressive wins over people like Petch. But yeah, now he's with and now he's with one championship. His division is ruled by Jonathan Haggerty. So let's see if Wei Rui can get some impressive wins and then he can fight for a title against Haggerty in the future, or he might just be over the hill. Who knows? Let's see if there's any other news going on here that I can talk about. Check out the PFL. PFL Bellator in Belfast on the 22nd should be a very good fight event. I'll be covering that one. One Friday Fights this week as well. I'll be covering that one. Otherwise, there's no major events. We just saw Glory, K1, and Rise do events in a row. One Championship has some stuff coming up on April 5th with kickboxing, including people like Jonathan DeBella, Marat Gregorian. JDB is going to be defending his title against Prodenchai, which is a really good fight. Just got off an interview with him a few minutes before I went live, recording for you folks, and he seems pumped up, but he really didn't reveal anything. We were asking about the leg kicks, his game plan, what opportunities he sees, defending leg kicks, and he was like, no, you're just going to have to see. Tune in Friday, April 5th. So that interview with Jonathan DeBella will go live probably next week or something like that. But yeah, it's been good. It's been good. So it's hard to watch some of these events because Rise has a huge event and it's like, I think it's 6 hours long or something like that. And then K1 has a huge event and it's about 10 hours long, which is insane. It's just been hard lately. I had some people from out of town visiting, but mainly it's just Helldivers 2 is being in the way. I want to get back to the front lines. I want to fight some robots. I want to fight some bugs. Watching kickboxing sounds boring. I'm behind on everything though. There's videos I'm supposed to be working on. There's articles I'm supposed to be writing. I'm behind on everything. I had a Mark Coleman article that I've been working on for like 6 months at this point. And I thought with his fire rescue, what a great time to put it out. And it's still not done. I don't know if it'll ever be done, but the legend Mark Coleman is doing well. But all right, I'm going to edit this video, get it live for you folks. Keep it locked to Calf Kick Sports. Lots of interviews coming out. CalfKickSports.com will keep you up to date on everything that we have going on, but lots of interviews, kickboxing stuff, video essays, tons of more stuff going on the channel, folks. And if any of you want to play Helldivers, let me know. I'm actually happy to play with people. I haven't played with a proper team. I haven't communicated via mic or anything like that. But yeah, let's do it, folks. Oh, and thank you for your time, and I will see you folks next week.